Hello, friends. My name is Joe Lynch, and I'm the host of the Logistics of Logistics podcast. And today, I'm coming to you from Trimble Insight in Las Vegas. And today's topic is Trimble and Platform Science, the Future of Telematics with Rob Painter and Jack Kennedy. Guys, please introduce yourself.
Well, hey, thanks for having us today. My name is Rob Painter. I'm the CEO at Trimble. Trimble is a technology company that was founded in 1978 by Charlie Trimble. And for over 4 decades, we've had a mission to transform the way the world works. We're doing that at the intersection of the physical and digital worlds, connecting work in the office with work in the field, and applying a set of technologies that are helping customers do their work better, faster, safer, cheaper, and greener. And the primary industries today in which we play are in the transportation space as well as in engineering and construction.
Yeah. And by the way, it's your conference, so thank you for having us. Jack, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jack Kennedy. I'm the co-founder of Platform Science, and thanks again to Rob for having us. And Platform Science is our goal in an age of smartphones. We wanted to make it as easy for developers to develop applications and solve problems on vehicles as it is on phones. So we've all become obsessed with our phones and expect change and choice all the time. Telematics, with all the problems that we understand acutely, especially post-COVID, didn't have a means for people to do that. So we started with that goal in mind. We serve some of the biggest fleets in the country, work with the biggest OEMs, and we're enabling that as fast as we can.
Yep. So Rob, tell us a little bit about Trimble Insight. This is my first time here. I was kind of blown away. I saw you guys do the keynote today, and that was very impressive. But yesterday, I got here and I wandered around. It's all the tech companies you hear about. When did this start, and what is the purpose of the conference?
Well, first, welcome to Las Vegas. Welcome to Trimble Insight. Right. I'm glad you made the effort to come here. And speaking of effort to come here, over 1,000 of our customers made the effort to come here from throughout North America. It's a chance for leaders and partners, and as you noted, sometimes competitors in the space to come together in one industry forum. Excuse me. For us, we started doing this many years ago, and over the years, we've become more and more open in our approach with who we invite. And you can logically ask, why would you do that? When we look at the business, when we look at the industry, it's a fragmented industry, right? We know the number of carriers that are out there in North America, and you could segment that small, large, medium-sized carriers who have multiple different modes of transportation that they have to manage. They all, though, tend to have reasonably similar problems that they're trying to address. This is a tough industry. The industry operates with low margins. They need to be efficient. They need to be productive. If you look at the challenges customers face with driver retention, it's a staggering statistic when trucking companies lose 80 to 100% of their drivers every year. It is so important that we're able to deliver solutions, not only as Trimble, but as an industry to help drive this efficiency, this productivity, compliance, safety, driver retention, all in service of making their businesses work better. And so we believe in order to do so, you need to really bring a kaleidoscope of industry participants together. And that's what you see here at Trimble Insight.
I mentioned to a few people that I was coming to this, and one of them said, "Oh yeah, we'll see you there." I go, "How do you work with them?" They go, "Oh, we use their visibility." And I remember saying after that to another friend, I said, the whole industry for the last 5 years, visibility. And I joked that on my podcast, 50 companies in a row wanted to talk to me about visibility. I was like, I get it. We all have visibility. This is kind of where it starts, though. It's a lot of the companies that are using it, they don't necessarily say we're partner with Trimble, but when you come here, you start to realize that's how they have the visibility.
Yep. Well, welcome.
So I want to get to you in just a second here, Jack, but I went to the media roundtable earlier, and you mentioned Trimble, and you said it's a 4-legged stool. Talk about those 4 business units within the transportation business.
Sure. So I'll describe how I think about the major components of our transportation business, and I do so in typically describing 4 legs of the stool. And that analogy may be a little bit weak because there are many, many more legs on that one can unpack. But here's how we think about it. We think in totality, that it is an ecosystem that requires us to think about managing solutions for carriers and managing solutions for shippers. If we're going to ultimately drive more efficiency and productivity into how work is done, we do believe we need to link the entire ecosystem. We think a lot about workflow. I say that because when we look at then the major legs of the technology stack, we think about managing within carriers, helping them manage the driver, the truck, and the fleet. So in order to do that, there's 3 of those 4 legs are within that. So we have a telematics business, and we'll talk about that in combination with Jack's business at Platform Science. So that work that's out there in the field, technology on the trucks. Super important, right? From driver safety to compliance needs to fuel efficiency and optimization and on and on. And this is more than just tracking vehicles. This is much more than visibility. This is also integrating video intelligence, for an example, helping them solve a variety of solutions, helping them integrate into an ecosystem that's much bigger than what either of us do alone. And you'll see many of the folks who are in this ecosystem out on the pavilion here this week. We also, at Trimble, the second leg, have what we call our enterprise business, which is fundamentally those back office solutions. So think a TMS, a transportation management system. Think maintenance solutions as well are within this part of our business. The third of the 4 legs, and the third of 3 within carriers, is our mapping, routing, navigation products. Trimble technology is the de facto mileage of standard in North American trucking.
It's PC Miler, right?
It is. And you
It's
can
in every
say
contract you've ever seen in this business.
Exactly. And you get a sense of how long we've been doing this by the name PC Miler, when we are a global company and an internet age today. And then on the shipper side of Trimble, so quite shipper facing, but it is more than shipper facing, but shipper facing, we have a business called Transporion, which is a transportation management platform that provides ability to transact, to execute as you connect buyers, or excuse me, as you connect the givers of freight with those who actually move the freight, thus the shippers and the carriers who do business on a global basis. And each one of those legs has multiple layers that could be pulled back of a variety of solutions that we do. Yep. So you can see just from that description, which isn't that short of a description, that we do a lot and we think a lot about this business.
Right. And so the 4 legs: mobility, enterprise, which is the TMS and your maintenance tool, maintenance systems. Maps. And then the maps, the navigating, the routing, PC Miler, and then Transporion, I had written down just talking about, so that's kind of the whole transportation ecosystem, right?
That really enables us to link those shippers with the carriers. So those first 3 legs really provide us density in terms of carrier relationships. But ultimately, a carrier doesn't move if there isn't something on it, and that something on it is coming from the shipper, those who give the freight. Right.
So Jack, talk about what you guys do, what problems you solve over at Platform Science, and why I'm talking to both of you today together.
Sure. It's actually a really nice kind of a segue there. We have 4 of our own elements, but it's slightly different. As infrastructure, we have to consider the driver, the device they're using, the developers who write for that device, and then the hardware or vehicles, OEMs that they work on. All 4 of those things have to work together so that when these problems get solved, changing a driver, changing a device, changing a truck doesn't change the nature of solving that problem. So our goal is to make those things work as well as possible in any combination of those things. So we're not the visibility company, but we enable folks like that to do that. There are many workflows that run on our platform, but we're just the basic foundation for all of them and the building blocks to build them.
Yep. So I went to the media roundtable today and everyone was talking about telematics, and not everybody knows what telematics is. I know we all hear the term. What is telematics?
So you picked exactly the wrong person, because I'll tell you right, I hate the word, and I'll tell you why. I think for years, telematics was a word designed by people in telematics business to keep people out. Because what telematics is, it's mobility that you're used to with the particular aspects of a vehicle, the signals that come off of a vehicle, the things you use it for. But that's compute on a device that moves, that has certain characteristics. But that's really, it shrinks the universe too much. In a world of applications today, as we've seen, it's growing quite quickly. The telematics part of it is I wouldn't say it's limited, but it's not the whole story. It's certainly an input. It's certainly that makes it relevant, where a driver is, what hours they have, where that vehicle is, where the freight is. That's all relevant. But it's not unique from a compute perspective, except for the signals that are input into it.
Got it. So today's topic is Trimble and Platform Science, the future of telematics. Maybe I shouldn't have called it the future of telematics, but it's too late now. So talk about this deal that you and Trimble have.
Well, I'll get us started. Jack and I have known each other for a number of years now, and we've been a partner for a long time. So our initial conversations as we got to know another were around mutual interest we have in the industry. We have many mutual interests in terms of the industry adopting technology and getting more out of the investments that we're making. As those conversations progressed, let's say over time, the market was also progressing over time and changing over time. And I think there's an important thing for us to really keep in mind there as the market's evolved in these last few years, especially since ELD came online a few years ago. It's an entirely different technology ecosystem, entirely different competitive landscape. And so, as we really just kept thinking about the business and kept thinking about, it's the old Gretzky quote about, how he was so good. It's, he didn't skate to where the puck was, he skated to where the puck was going.
Right.
And when we thought about where the puck was going in this part of the market, it just became more and more obvious over time that these complementary businesses with complementary set of capabilities together would be better and stronger. And that led us to the announcement we made yesterday morning, Sunday, that we would be bringing these businesses together. We signed a deal to do so, and we bring the Trimble Telematics assets, global telematics assets, under the umbrella of Platform Science, where we would become a significant shareholder in Platform Science on an ongoing basis.
Very nice, very nice. Your 2 cents on that, Jack?
I think it was a natural outcome. They were our very first partner. So the commitment to participating in an open world, when we launched, they were right there with us day one. So we've added services over time. We've added services of our own. So culturally, very similar approach to the customer, and offering premium products and choice similar, and culturally similar. So for us, it was a very easy decision. Plus, they bring to us global scale and a few products that are filling out our portfolio. So for us, it was a great fit.
Yeah. Well, I think I went to that media roundtable earlier this morning, and did I hear you say you had 100 acquisitions at Trimble?
Yeah, well, actually, well more than 100 acquisitions over the last 20 plus years. When you've got a mission to transform the way the world works, that's a bold, big vision. And when we talk about connecting users, data, stakeholders across industry lifecycle continuums, once you start down that path, you keep going down that path, and you just keep thinking about the next problem you can solve and the one after that.
Since you've done 100, I'm assuming it's worked relatively well, or you wouldn't continue doing it. So,
yeah, well, I mean, if you look at the nature of these industries, they're large, they're global, they're underserved, and they're underpenetrated. They're fundamentally digitizing, and what we see is a secular wave of technology adoption in the core markets that we serve at Trimble.
I'm a layman in this. So, Jack, when the ELD mandate came out, I did a whole bunch of training for these different companies, and it was just talking about, hey, this is required. And I remember there was hundreds of ELDs out there, and there was a lot of resistance. And I remember it was years that we talked about it, and then finally it hit. And I remember even the day after, there's companies reaching out and saying, hey, do we still have to do this? And the industry kind of was dragged into the ELD mandate, kicking and screaming, but it launched this visibility revolution. Am I wrong to say that?
You're not. And I think if you look back before the ELD mandate, penetration was maybe 20-25%. And I think the heritage of both Rob's company and others out there, they served products to people that didn't have to have them. There were people that were trying to run their businesses efficiently. So when the ELD mandate came out, the first thing that it said, everybody has to have something, regardless of what they perceived as their own need. So that's why there was resistance. Before the ELD mandate, there was any number of forms that fleets used to track their hours. But the big bang was that there now was a point of connectivity on essentially every vehicle.
Yep.
So you had an installed base and a presumption that as a computing device with a mobile piece of connectivity, something should happen. The D in ELD is, I have a big problem with that. It's electronic logging device. Your phone is not an electronic talking device, right? It's a computer that happened to log hours. It certainly, in most cases, wasn't limited to that.
Right.
So they're electronic logs that are one app or collection of applications on a platform that could have hundreds of applications.
What it's not, you kind of touched on it. Telematics isn't exactly the right word. Even phone isn't exactly the right word,
Right.
given what the phone does today.
Exactly.
But it's stuck. We're stuck with it. My grandchildren will call it a phone, whether they know what a phone does or not. So this deal, what does it do for Trimble first?
Well, I think to answer that question of what it does for Trimble first, I put it in context of what does it do for customers and work backwards from that. And what I firmly believe is that this is built upon three fundamental outcomes. And those, in three words, I think about scale, I think about breadth, and I think about focus. And when I think about scale, I think about when you put these businesses together, serving complementary parts of the market, you'll ultimately end up with a business that will be able to invest back more into itself, invest more back into the technology. The more we can operate at that level of scale. By the way, we also talked about cyber at that media roundtable today. That is hard to keep up with. You do need to operate with some level of size when I say the word scale in order to be able to afford to keep up as a technology company with the investments we need in order to keep our customers secure and safe. So scale is an important outcome that has benefits to the market. We think about the breadth of capabilities. If you're a Trimble customer, you're going to get access to more capabilities through Platform Science. I'll say easier access to that because they've always been open, but it'll provide an easier basis upon which to get access to that. If you're a Platform Science customer, it's plugging into those legs of the stool of Trimble that we have available. And that's super important that we continue to have this ongoing connectivity. And then we'll have a business that's 100% focused on delivering customer outcomes. In doing so, I believe that creates the right opportunities for our team that goes into the business, as well as the shareholders of our company. And so a business that's 100% focused, to me, I think has a better chance of breaking out and breaking through, going faster and further together.
So Jack, what does it do for Platform Science?
I think three things. Again, number one for us since day one has been choice. So this rapidly expands choice because we get the full catalog of applications that they have right alongside our own. So it's unrealistic anymore to presume any one company makes a full portfolio that's the customer's choice for everything. And more than that, even today, our customers make apps, shippers make apps, third parties make apps. Adding those to the portfolio we're getting here, that gives us choice. Beyond that, scale. Because it's global, I don't like to use the word standard, that's not really it, but it is a certain footprint that's large enough to entice developers to really get excited about making new products, knowing they can reach a wide audience, integrate with our products, integrate with Rob's products, and be everywhere. That's a huge advantage.
Right.
And then speed, because somebody once told me that the more technology evolves, the less patient we become. And it's true. Once you expect choice, you expect it faster and faster and faster.
Right.
So I think the speed, getting to that scale, that to entice those developers will help us satisfy the speed requirement.
Yeah. And one of the things, this is my observation, because I'm old enough to have lived in the green screens and the beds where you're like hit F8 and control so you can get to the cost screen. And what I've noticed in the last decade is we've all kind of moved in the transportation and logistics space to what I'll call consumer grade technology. So if you're using Lyft or one of those apps, one extra step might make you go, oh, this sucks, I hate this. And I feel like we, for a long time, it seemed like would accept a little less at work. That's no longer the case. The expectation, especially the younger generation, they expect everything to have that consumer grade feel, which means no extra steps, easy. The idea that you go, oh yeah, you should go to a 3-day training class to learn to use your tech. You're like, no, it's not the way we're comfortable working today. So we talked a little bit about the cybersecurity problem. And one of the things I talked to Kelly Williams from the Trimble team not so long ago, and it was eye-opening in that we have so many small carriers out there and a whole bunch of freight brokers who are on the small side. And we've had a kind of a down market since COVID. And I'm wondering, how do we make the kind of technology investments? I mean, they're not going to make the technology investments. They're going to have to buy it off the shelf from companies like Platform Science and Trimble. So I want to get your 2 cents first from you, Rob, and then from Jack. How do we make that investment? How do we upgrade our industry?
Well, you're right that it is becoming more and more, let's say, a cost of doing business. Increasingly, we see customers coming to us more and more interested in where we stand on cyber and what services and value we can provide, what outcomes we can ultimately provide them, because they've either experienced their own threats themselves or attacks themselves, or their customers are demanding that they show that they are cyber resilient. And I'd say the sum of all that is creating an adoption cycle of more technology, thus the digitization. Actually, I think our industry overall is still somewhat of a digitization laggard. There is a lot of, let's say, upgrading and modernizing that we need to do within the industry. There are still our green screens in the industry. Like, let's be honest, we're on a journey. And that's okay. Like, let's go do this thing. I think to attract the next generation into this industry, we do need to be developing user experiences that mimic what we see in our personal lives. I think that's something that will bring more people into the industry. Change is hard. I talked about it in my keynote this morning, comparing, Carl Lewis winning the 100-meter dash in 1988 Olympics with a time of 9.92 seconds. And then in 2024, the first person who finished last place in the 100-meter dash, last place was 9.91 seconds. So think about that. Think about change. Change is hard. But, if you're not going to change, you can pretty quickly move from relevance to irrelevance. And that was also a part of the message this morning. And so technology adoption is part of maintaining that relevance, maintaining that relevance, maintaining that competitive edge, being able to do more with less, solving those higher order problems. So there's a lot that's kind of within the question, behind the question of them.
Right. And so with this, staying on the topic of cybersecurity, Jack, when I think of these Fortune 5,000 shippers, they're connected to a lot of small freight, probably not as many small freight brokers, but there are these small trucking companies that are getting access to that freight. And I keep thinking, there's got to be a barrier, but at the same time, a conduit to protect those Fortune 5,000 companies they might be SOC 2 compliant, but how do you stay SOC 2 compliant when your partners are not?
Well, you're describing actually a bigger reality, right? Today, whether it's not limited to the shipper or the size or whatever, we're all dependent on a myriad of systems before we get to the actual end user system. You think about cloud services or operating systems or the multitude of browsers and applications, all before you get to multiple sign-ons versus single sign-ons. There's an infinite number of permutations now. So I'm not sure I would focus it so much on a characteristic of a type of customer or user. It's a function of what we're all maturing through in every bit of our life.
Right.
It's not limited anyway to those businesses.
Right. Well, it becomes kind of the table stakes. If you're going to work with certain companies, they're going to say, this is what's required. And you either upgrade or you don't. We've seen that before in our business. I mean, when a bond changes or even when ELDs came, there was people who were exiting the business.
With Scope 3.
Yeah. And by the way, not every ELD that was out there became approved. Am I right to say that?
Very much.
So I remember there seeming to be hundreds, and I don't think there's hundreds anymore that I hear about.
Yeah.
So again, getting back to Kelly Williams, one of the things she said when I talked to her, she was very passionate about how do we make drivers' lives better. So I want to ask you this first, Rob. How do we make drivers' life better? And then I want to hear from you, Jack. How do we make carriers' life better, which is a bit more profitable?
Well, first, let me shout out to Kelly Williams because she's awesome, and we're lucky to have her at Trimble. Think about the life of a driver. First of all, I think about safety, about a driver making it home at night, and I think that makes a life better if you make it home. at night. So from driver training tools to video intelligence, which can, the forward-facing camera can provide data around liability, right? We know the data shows us how often the truckers get blamed for the accidents when they happen and the size of those verdicts when they come down. Because they're generally not responsible for the accident. That's the punchline. The driver-facing cameras, that's applying artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to detect fatigue in drivers. That's important for not only the driver, but the customers and everybody out there on our road. So I anchor in starting with driver safety. When I think about driver retention, I think about the extent to which we can help optimize routes, and the extent to which we can optimize those routes such that you can get drivers home at night. Getting the drivers home at night correlates to the retention that companies have with those drivers. So the intersection between the routing mapping technology with weather data that we can bring in if we need to do some rerouting, with the TMS that's providing the dispatch capabilities, with the telemetry on the road letting you know where you are and where you might time out on a compliance basis. Like, that's not a single task, that's a workflow optimization, and you need to connect all that data. And that's a big reason that part of our ongoing relationship will be connecting that data, because these are the higher order problems we need to solve to make a driver's life better.
Yeah, I got a quick anecdote about the cameras. A month ago, I was out at a friend of mine's trucking company, and we were going out to lunch, and he says, "Oh, right here at this location," he goes, "one of my drivers was driving out. We're not even to the expressway," and he says, car pulled out in front of him, slammed on the brakes, and he crashed into the back of him. And person was, grabbing their neck and, screaming. And when the police got there, the driver took the video out and showed it to the police.
Wow.
And I don't know what they got ticketed or arrested, but they caused that accident. And without that camera, that carrier now has another claim against their insurance. And carriers are, a lot of them are in precarious situations. And then when you have consumers, the passenger drivers, causing that kind of grief for you, I can't
intense.
imagine how. Yeah, it's such a horrible problem. But so to you, Jack, how does this, working with Trimble and Platform Science, make the carriers better so they're more profitable and can sustain themselves during these difficult times?
Two questions. As you asked Rob, and then how it connects to the second part. I mean, you're the first person I've heard articulate the real nuts and bolts of the problem for a driver. How do you take steps out? Drivers have to drive safe.
Yep.
They have to complete their tasks in the appropriate order under regulatory constraints. And how can they do that in the simplest possible way, in the most accurate way? And when you do that, drivers who get paid to drive get to drive, right? So working with companies like Trimble, or right off the bat, our first application with them was navigation, which we heavily integrated into the workflow and other applications that informed that driver's route and associate with their tasks. Layering on top of that, ELD, and then at that point, this was going back to 2017, regional regulations that were often in conflict with the federal regulations, in addition to weather and traffic and the route and the time of arrival. Drivers are doing a constant Rubik's Cube equation in their minds, trying to figure out how to do their job. So working together with companies like this, we can solve those things at the compute level, so drivers once again can drive and accurately deliver the information they're supposed to and accomplish their tasks.
Yep. I want to go back in it, and I'm going to have some very basic questions here. You said something about the advantage of getting this deal done with Trimble was choice. So earlier today, when I saw you guys give the keynote, Rob, you talked about this cloud that you have with all of these companies that were connected, and most of them are here today. First off, is that the choice you're talking about, that your customers now have access to all of those?
It's not only access, but it's access to mix and match them, and then to integrate them amongst each other. So it's one thing to build a vertically integrated stack yourself. It's another thing to build a partner network where somebody can drop into that stack and integrate.
So it's interesting, as one of you people said earlier today, the tech stack that a driver has. I was like, I've never thought of it. Tech stacks are everywhere, I guess, including in trucks. And what if I'm using the equivalent of, Excel? I want to be able to continue using Excel. I don't care if there's a better tool. I like Excel. Is that the kind of, so if somebody's using a tool, you don't have to switch because one of your other components made you switch.
That's certainly one of the advantages. Doesn't mean they won't switch.
Yes.
But the idea
Choice.
right now, when you change your ELD, as you call it before, in the old PeopleNet or Verizon or OmniTrack era, you pulled the entire thing out, wires, boxes, devices, and started over with something new. Now you can choose anytime you want a different workflow, a different electronic log, a different, you name it. So it's that ability to choose things singularly rather than the entire thing at once that makes change easier. Because often it wasn't just changing that one app, it was changing the entire system, 3 days of training, all the things you mentioned earlier.
Right.
Now, what I have to say, what Jack is describing, he makes it sound easy, but it is hard under the covers technologically to deliver that.
Of course.
And so there's modesty in what he's talking about because they've built, I think, a really strong platform, ergo probably platform
Right.
science to create that ability to integrate. That is hard to do.
Yeah, everybody's
Simple is hard.
right. Exactly. Well, that's the nature of like the elegant, like someone's looks like a Lyft app. Again, it's really hard to get it done in 3 steps, but it's the different, if you have 5 steps, it's not the app that everyone adopts. And again, that's what we're trying to make this life a lot easier. Let's wrap this bad boy up. So I want to get final thoughts. First off, again, thanks so much for having me at Trimble Insight. This has been wonderful. I learned so much. And I will say this, I'm a podcaster, so I talked to 600 interviews. Everybody says to me all the time, oh, visibility, visibility, visibility. And what occurred to me when I got here yesterday was, I don't know where that visibility comes from until you come here. This is where the visibility begins here. This is the foundation. It's the trucks. And it came out really loud and clear when I was here. It's about the trucks, the truck drivers, the carriers. If they don't do well, the rest of the industry can't do well. And again, also the visibility starts there. So thank you so much. Final thoughts from you, and then final thoughts from you, Jack.
Well, first, again, I thank you for making the effort to come here to Insight to get a taste of the ecosystem that comes together in a conference like this. We talk about purpose at Trimble, and we have a mission to transform the way the world works. We're getting to work as a company on real problems in the real world. Like, it is super easy to find purpose and inspiration in the work that we do. These problems we're helping our customers address are problems worth solving. And I just don't want to lose that, as you can get so caught up in the technology at times as you lose the humanity of that. We're helping, at Trimble, we talk about the why of Trimble: feed the world, move the world, build the world. Like, that's something worth doing. So I'll leave you with that.
Jack?
I think my final thought, I think this kind of marks a moment in time. This is not the coming together of 2 companies or 2 sets of products. It's really the sort of the big bang moment where this kind of platform approach, this choice approach, this universal ability to innovate really is undeniable moving forward. And we welcome everybody else that will come and follow. But it's a very different world going forward than that green screen world you talked of in the past.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's funny because the old way, no one ever looked at this as enabling me to do my job better. It was a requirement. Put your information into that system. And you're like, I don't know why I'm doing it. You were doing it for someone else. The tools that you guys are talking about is to make my life better, to make my company better. And there's a big difference between the two. And I used to, when I speak to people, sometimes I talk about CRMs. You can have a CRM that's top down, so the boss can know where all the sales guys are. And there's a CRM that enables your sales guy to do a better job. I think we want a combination of both, but I don't want to sacrifice one for the other. So thank both of you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time. I got to tell you, I'm a little off my game when I talk to people live because I always do all my podcasts remote. But thank you so much for taking the time and being so patient with me. And thank all of you for listening to my podcast. Your support's very much appreciated. Until next time, onward and upward. You have been listening to the Logistics of Logistics podcast, where we engage with leaders in the logistics and supply chain community. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, hit the like button, and leave us a nice review on Apple or Spotify or wherever else you listen. Also, please check out our videos on YouTube and connect with us on LinkedIn. We're very big on LinkedIn. And you can also reach us on the logisticsoflogistics.com, our website.